Welcome to the Loosening Captives channel, where we discuss all things having to do with deliverance and inner healing. Today's topic is how to remove hindrances to spiritual seeing or seeing in the spirit. There are many reasons that can prevent a born-again Christian from seeing in the spirit, and these reasons are often related to an individual's spiritual baggage. Let us explore why your prayer for spiritual sight may not be answered, as it is typically involving a legal matter in the spiritual realm. Once the reason is discovered, or the reasons, repentance is necessary, followed by forgiveness and the application of the blood of Christ to remove the legal barriers and to restore your spiritual vision. Adam and Eve enjoyed the ability to see in the Spirit and to commune with the Lord, with God, and through the redemptive work of the Lord Jesus Christ, this ability has been restored to us as well. Like Adam, we are now able to live in the Spirit, using all of our spiritual senses to discern and experience God's presence and what He wants to show us. It is the will of our Heavenly Father for His children to see in the Spirit, as it allows us to enjoy a deeper level of intimacy with Him. Jesus said, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." Matthew 5:8. The Lord Jesus' blood purifies our hearts so we can see in the Spirit. It is not for the select few. We may not all be seers, but we can all see in the Spirit. Now, as our helper or revelator of all truth, it is the Holy Spirit who ultimately reveals to us the reason for our inability to see in the Spirit. During our sessions of deliverance for seeking answers to certain reasons for this inability to see, we have repeatedly found the following problems. They keep surfacing. Now, here are some of the legal reasons or problems that may inhibit a person's ability to see in the Spirit. A, there has been previous involvement in Freemasonry or other profane religious cults and ceremonies. B, there are ownership claims to the person's spiritual sight, such as false titles, liens, notes, or lease agreements. C, there may be covenants or oaths made from fear because of past negative experiences with seeing in the Spirit that now prevents a person from wanting to see again. D, an ancestral covenant of death made with Sheol. E, there may be accusations or negative beliefs such as you have no right to see or you are not spiritual enough. F, there may be false verdicts or limiting beliefs such as seeing in the Spirit is only for prophets and seers. G, there may be a misunderstanding or wrong beliefs about seeing in the Spirit or the imagination, such as viewing it as New Age stuff. H, curses or generational iniquity that result in spiritual blindness. I, you may be trapped in places of captivity, such as Satan's trophy room or other dimensional places. J, there may be a religious mindset that teaches that seeing in the Spirit is dangerous. These are just some of the reasons why you may not be able to see in the Spirit. However, always rely on the Holy Spirit because He's the one that knows the truth. Regardless of the reason for spiritual blindness, there's good news. You can address it in the courts of heaven. We can now explore each of the reasons previously listed and outline the court process for attaining freedom. It is important to know which court to approach depending on the situation that you are facing. For instance, in cases of false verdicts or captivity, one should seek justice from the Heavenly Court of Appeals. If you're dealing with covenants, curses, then that would be the court of cancellations. If you're dealing with accusations, then that would be the court of mercy. Ownership claims, that would be the court of titles and deed. Now, I will provide you with additional details about each of the processes, and I will also attach a document underneath this video for your reference. Now, the following is the process to deal with false verdicts made in profane ceremonies such as Freemasonry, for example. First, request access to the Court of Appeals. Then request the overturning of the false verdicts that you or your ancestors made not to see. Then repent for those creating the false verdict originally. Forgive, bless, and release them. Request that the false verdict or verdicts be replaced with righteous verdicts on your behalf and future generations. Ask that your spiritual sight be restored or established, and request the removal of anything covering your eyes or your head, and begin to see. You also deal with spiritual captivity in the Court of Appeals. Request access again to the Court of Appeals. Repent for anything that caused the imprisonment of the person. Ask the Holy Spirit for insight about that. Request a certificate of freedom. Receive the certificate and the key to Satan's trophy case, for example, or other keys to other places of captivity. Request angelic assistance to take the person out of the trophy room or other places of captivity. Unlock the case and remove the person and establish them in heaven. Request that their spiritual sight be restored and begin to see. Now, if you're dealing with covenants, oaths, vows, curses, or generational iniquity, you should address it in the court of cancellations. Request access to the court of cancellations. Ask Holy Spirit to reveal the originator of the covenant or the oath or the iniquity, etc. That's against your godly spiritual sight. Repent for making the oaths, covenants, or iniquities. Repent for perpetuating the covenant's oath or iniquities. Forgive, bless, and release those who made the covenant's oath of iniquities. Request that the Lord release you and your bloodline from the consequences of these covenant oaths or iniquities. Request that the Lord restore you and your bloodline spiritual sight and begin to see in Jesus' name. If you're dealing with ownership claims, then enter the Court of Titles and Deeds and request that a transfer of title, the title deed, would be transferred from whomever, as the Holy Spirit who is making the claim, to Jehovah God. Forgive, bless, and release those whom these ownership claims and titles were established, by whom they were established. Request that the false titles be abolished. Request the restoration of your spiritual sight. Request the removal of any band, helmet, or tarp over your head or over your eyes and begin to see. Now, to address a lien, a note, or a lease, you also do it from the Court of Titles and Deeds, but you ask the blood of Christ to satisfy the lien or the note or the lease. If you're dealing with accusations, these should be addressed in the Court of Mercy. Request access to the Court of Mercy. Ask the Holy Spirit, what are the accusations against you? Then say out loud that in accordance with Matthew 5:25, you agree with the adversary concerning the accusations. Then confess them as sin, repent, and ask that the blood of Christ wash them away, along with all the ramifications in Jesus' name. Forgive, bless, and release those by whom these accusations were established. Request access to the Court of Cancellations and request that the accusations be canceled in Jesus' name. Repent and ask forgiveness for embracing the lie that has affected your ability to see in the Spirit. Forgive, bless, and release those who made the accusations. Request the restoration of your spiritual sight and the removal of anything covering your eyes or head in Jesus' mighty name. Now, there's a lot more detail about these processes than I can go through in this short video. So if you want more detailed information about all that has been covered in this video, please go to looseningcaptivesblog.com and get Dr. Ron M. Horner's book, Unlocking Spiritual Sight or Spiritual Seeing, and you will get more detail about all that has been covered here. Now, if you're watching this video but you are not saved and you would like to receive the Lord Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, then say this prayer out loud. Lord Jesus, I am a sinner in need of a Savior. Lord, would you forgive me of my sins and wash them away with your precious blood that you shed to pay the penalty for my sins? I believe that you are the Son of God and that you died and resurrected on the third day. Come into my heart and life as my Lord and Savior. With your help, I will live for you until you call me home to heaven to be with you. Thank you, Lord. Now, if you prayed this prayer in faith, welcome to the family of God. Begin to read your Bible and ask the Lord Jesus Christ to provide for you a good church where you can grow in the things of God. Now, thank you for watching. Thank you for your likes, your comments, and subscribing to my channel. And I will see you at our next video. Bye-bye.